It's the Harris Football Podcast with your host, Christopher Harris.
Welcome! Hey, everybody. Welcome in. My name is Chris, and if this podcast were a work of literature, it would be a novella. Very elegant sounding. Hello there, everybody. Thank you so much for listening today. I hope you're doing well. I hope I can help make this next hour or so of your day a little better than it otherwise might have been, if only by taking your mind off your cares and onto stuff that doesn't really matter, and that is, of course, football stuff. But before we get to the Monday night game between the Eagles and the Packers, I wanted to mention that if you think you're in the yacht club and you think you're on schedule to keep getting the Wednesday podcast, you might want to check, or if you don't get it tomorrow, here's why. Because a bunch of folks still are not on recurring for their subscription, and they're getting auto unsubscribed after their subscription runs out. I can see the running total. So just a note that if you don't get the Paywall Andy show tomorrow, you might want to get that charge on recurring. You can go to harrisfootball.com to handle that. Okay, the Monday night game. So I want to make a request, which is that we not be one of those groups of fantasy players who go, oh, that game stunk. 10-7, that's a bad game, because there weren't a lot of scoreboard points. It was definitely not a bad game. It was close. It was fun to watch in a certain kind of way. The defenses played really well. Yes, the offenses were severely challenged. That doesn't make it a bad game. You could feel each team trying to puzzle out how to move the ball. It feels like the Packers in particular have come into greater focus these last couple of games, which I'll talk about. And sure, yes, we entered last night with fantasy games on the line and needing superstars to post superstar stats. But just because they didn't, that doesn't mean it was somehow terrible and the league stinks and like these teams suck, these players suck. It was just a tough game with an ending that was mighty bizarre. We'll get to that too. Obviously, this was Josh Jacobs against Saquon Barkley, so in a way, it was very much the Possum Bowl, and in the end, neither starting running back can really be counted among the disappointments, although it took a while to get there. The Packers are, for me, maybe the more fascinating angle, because what was the line we got about them coming out of the Carolina loss at home last week? Yes. Yeah, I understand you're frustrated, Jordan Love. I understand you're still stubbornly stuck on some low totals against a team that you're supposed to be blowing out, but you can't take out your frustrations by chucking deep 50-50 balls that get intercepted. It sounded like Buck and Aikman had been told exactly that by Matt LaFleur. We're asking Jordan Love to stay patient. And sheesh, I guess the message seeped through. To me, over and over and over, it felt like Love, most any time he dropped back, he was deep in his own head, looking for perfect throws and therefore missing open receivers. In the Yacht Club Discord last night, which was very, very fun, I recommend you joining the Yacht Club, one clever wag said something like, I didn't realize J.J. McCarthy was allowed to play for the Vikings and for the Packers. And that's kind of how I felt too. From the very beginning, very first drive, Love was holding the ball too long, refusing to throw it, or refusing to throw it away. Took a 14-yard sack on that first promising drive. He did try a bomb to Christian Watson on the final third down of that drive, which actually maybe Watson could have or should have caught at the last moment. He just got it in his head that he was going to turn to the defender, and who cares if he picks it off, man? It's an arm punt. It's third down. Go up and get the ball. And the ball thumps Watson in the helmet instead. But if you watch this game, well, obviously that means you don't have YouTube TV, but if you watch this game, we're never mad when this guy gets a lot of action.
Isn't he sturdy, the Jack Gerbil?
The Jack Gerbil had 6 of the first 7 touches in this game. He had 13 touches in the first half. And this is the truth that I feel about Green Bay, at least right now. They want to maul you for as long as the scoreboard lets them. I mentioned that Greg Olsen did the Panthers-Packers game last week and how he said multiple times, this is frustrating to watch. Everybody knows that what's correlated with winning is big plays. You have to throw to win. You can really only win with explosive plays. The run game simply doesn't do that, especially not the way that the Packers do it. And he's not wrong. I mean, he hasn't been proven wrong. It's a little dogmatic for me, but he's kind of proven right in these back-to-back weeks. Although, obviously, Jacobs is a spectacular player. Man, I loved watching him run. And he was basically the only Packer who came through for you last night. It's 83 total yards in the first half, 58 of those from Jacobs. Right before halftime, Love was so indecisive. They were in field goal range. He just holds it forever, and he's getting hit. And as he's going down, he decides he's going to try and flip a pass to Jacobs, but he fumbles it. So the game is 0-0 at the half, the first time that's happened since 2023. And let's face it, Green Bay didn't get much better in the second half. Romeo Doubs wound up in the locker room in the second half with a chest injury. Bo Melton in the third quarter had a horror drop on a fourth down. In the fourth quarter, you thought, you finally got the big play to Christian Watson, and it was called back by illegal formation. And then once they were down 10-0, the scoreboard now says we can't mess around anymore. Luke Musgrave draws a long pass interference call, and then Jacobs does the rest. Back-to-back plays from the 13 to score Green Bay's only touchdown. How bad was it by the end? Well, the Packers got it back. They had a chance to go for the tie or the win, like 2 times, as you're aware. But the first time, they have a 4th and 1 around midfield, and on that play, you could hear the Eagles' defense screaming, "Inside zone, this way!" And it was. And Jacobs, he fumbled, but he wasn't getting the first down regardless. But of course, that would not be the last chance that Green Bay got because of the absolute vapor lock that every Eagles fan secretly knows resides between the ears of Nick Sirianni. Because on a 4th and 6, with the Packers having used all their timeouts, instead of just punting from the Packer 35, Sirianni goes for it. The only time A.J. Brown got a downfield pass the entire night into double coverage, incomplete, and somehow the Eagles allow a long field goal attempt, which, thankfully for Sirianni, was a bridge too far on a cold, windy night at Lambeau, but it obviously should never have gotten that far. Certainly not really any better of a night for the Philly offense than for Green Bay's. And a lot of the hesitance stuff that we're describing for Jordan Love that I don't really feel like was in his game earlier this year. But that's been a problem for Jalen Hurts a lot of the time throughout this entire good Eagles run. The first Philly drive was great, methodical. The Eagles were kind of at first slipping all over the place because they had the wrong cleats on, and they would lose Lane Johnson, the right tackle, for most of the game. But he did come back at the very end. Philly had been a very bad third down team so far this year, but on that first drive, they converted 3 third downs, a great throw on 3rd and 10 to Will Shipley, a 3rd and 6 stop route to Devontae Smith, and then a quarterback draw by Hurts himself getting close to the Green Bay goal line. But at the end of that play, Hurts got peanut punched by a defender and lost a fumble. And from that first drive on, they kind of stopped being able to do anything either. These are really good defenses. 125 total yards in the scoreless first half for Philly, and all but 48 of them happened on that first drive that ended in the fumble. To start the second half, Dallas Goedert sits down the seam against zone for a good gain, but then Hurts just absolutely blows a wide-open throw to Grant Calcaterra that should have been a touchdown, but at least Philly gets a field goal, and then it's 3-0 for a while. Then early fourth quarter, Barkley claps for Hurts' attention in the flat. Hurts eventually turns his head and sees him and throws it to him on a screen, and Barkley does a spin move and does the rest, goes 40 yards. Very next play is the decisive strike of the game. Devontae Smith to the post from the slot. He goes up, he gets it.
120 pounds, and now my knee hurts.
And the Eagles are up 10 points. I do kind of think the Eagles, having been to back-to-back Super Bowls, are in, do I want to call it chill-out mode in general? I think Hurts in particular seems like just a very chilled-out individual, and probably the real truth of what they actually can be offensively will come out in the playoffs. That said, boy, oh boy, there sure seems like there have been an awful lot of 3-and-outs for Philly this year. The number of Will Shipley 3rd and long draws, it sort of boggles the mind for a team with this much talent. I'm not sure why you're doing that, other than that champions thing of not tipping your hand, which, it's felt like the Chiefs tended to do the past couple of seasons in the regular game. people in the Yacht Club Discord last night were questioning, hey, is A.J. Brown just cooked? Is his hamstring just, destroyed? It's really not possible to know those things beforehand, so I don't really find them worth speculating on. My answer is probably not. I kind of doubt it. He's 28. We really think he's cooked at 28? He's got amazing plays on his film this year. I think Philly has a weird tendency to just give up on drives. It's not like the Eagles were drawing up plays specifically for Devontae Smith or A.J. Brown, frankly. Smith was sitting on 3 for 33 until his touchdown, which, got thrown to the deep post because of how the defense was playing, not because of it was some gadget or it was specifically designed to go to him. I counted 3 times on 3rd and longs in this game. A down where 3rd and long, having 2 awesome receivers might help you actually convert, and they just don't want Jalen Hurts to make that throw. 3 times where the Eagles ran a draw with Will Shipley and punted. I guess 2 of them were punts. 1 was at the end of the half. But 3 times 3rd and long, you're doing these hopeless give-up draws to your backup running back. I'm just, in a way, at a loss to understand it, and then in another way, they just know they're going to be in the playoffs and they'll save the good stuff for then, I guess. I don't know. And then at the end, that's when you take the hopeless deep shot to A.J. Brown instead of punting. Truly an insane decision, one for which I assume Sirianni is rightly being roasted. But anyway, it's a win for Philly in a tough place to win. They'll take it. Next week, a huge home game against the Lions, while the Packers try and get right, probably against Russell Wilson, against the Giants in New York.
Today's kickoff.
Okay, on today's show, let's get to the rest of the Sunday action. 4 more games to talk about. If you don't hear me talk about the game you're interested in, it means I did it on Monday's podcast. I encourage you to listen to that one as well. Today, we will have Jags, Texans, Lions, Commanders, Browns, Jets, and Cardinals, Seahawks. And then let's start talking about Week 11. To help me do that, let's talk Week 11 waivers with Brandon Funston from The Athletic. I think it'll be a fun time, and I thank you again so much for listening today. We are sponsored again by Fitbod. If you're trying to get a little more into the fitness habit, or you find that you tend to get bored working out so you can't stick with it, I personally recommend Fitbod. It's an app for your phone. I use it at the gym. It's like having a personal trainer, except 1 year of Fitbod costs less than 1 session with a trainer. You get a personalized workout plan based on your goals and your fitness level, whatever equipment you have, including none if you have no equipment. Fitbod mixes up your workouts so you never do get bored. Plus, this is key. If you're only just getting started working out, it can be a little much. Okay, now do some squats. Wait, what? How do I do that? What's that supposed to even look like? Fitbod has a library of 1,000 videos to teach you form to make sure you're doing it right. I personally am so glad to be back at the gym. Even if you're not a workout freak, it just makes you feel so much better to get a little sweaty and to know that you're taking care of your body. And I really do use Fitbod. Level up your workout. Join Fitbod today to get your personalized workout plan. Get 25% off your subscription or try the app for free for 7 days at fitbod.me/Harris. fitbod.me/Harris. That's what you should do. Go try it for a week. fitbod.me/Harris.
Let's break down the tape.
All right, let's get back into the Sunday action. I've watched all these games now. That's not some magic spell, but I can at least tell you where the people only looking at stats might be misled. That's a good goal. Let's talk about the Texans' crazy comeback over Jacksonville, losing 29-10 going into the fourth quarter. The Jags never scored again. The Texans scored 26 unanswered. Local area shopping mall Davis Mills leads the comeback. Wow, 292 yards passing, and what a big comeback game from Nico Collins, 136 yards from him. Yes, that is true according to the stat sheet, but that includes a helpless, hopeless Hail Mary at the end of the first half on which Mills could not reach the end zone, and Collins caught it for a meaningless 54-yard gain. Now, we'll take it. I'm not criticizing it. I just want you to know when you hear, hey, Davis Mills is great. He can do everything C.J. Stroud could do. Look at all those Nico Collins yards. Just realize it was really 6 for 82 for Collins, which we will take, and that mattered, but it wasn't overwhelming. And obviously, it's kind of disastrous for 3 quarters. Mills was running around. He threw a pick on the first series on a stop route where the DB jumped the route. He almost threw a second pick. Early second quarter, he had a delay of game deep in his own territory, a sack. They punt down 10-0, and Parker Washington returns it for a touchdown. It's 17-0. Even in the third quarter, 23-10, Dalton Schultz has an ugly drop on third down. They go on fourth down. I don't think they're giving Collins an official drop on the fourth down. It was a drop at 29-10, but that's when things started cooking. Collins got an end zone look, but it wasn't close, and instead Jaden Higgins caught a touchdown, although Nico did have a badass one-handed catch on the 2-point conversion. Down 11, Nico catches a deep dig, and then he should have had a touchdown, but Mills blew the corner route throw, and Schultz scores in the back of the end zone instead. And then the decisive drive of the game, losing by 5, 14 plays, 93 yards, kind of a dribs and drabs type of drive, until finally Christian Kirk gets a deep ball. The Jags commit interference because it's a Christian Kirk revenge game. From the 2-yard line, they false start. Woody Marks gets a carry. He's stuffed. They false start again. And then Davis Mills scrambles for the winning touchdown. You don't really want this offense, at least not the ancillary pieces of this offense, unless and until Stroud can come back, which I'd hope they're pretty hopeful for Week 11 against the Titans. Certainly, Houston got away with one here. Their defense was honestly pretty great. The offense was just terrible for 3 quarters and put the defense in a tough position. As for Houston's backfield, this was a change. This was much more the Woody Marks show, even when Houston got down in close. I guess they have seen what we have seen from Nick Chubb.
I have become troublesome to this game.
He definitely is troublesome to the Texans' chances of winning. And in the second quarter, the Jags had stopped Houston, but it was a body weight personal foul on a Davis Mills sack. Woody Marks gets a carry down to the 1, and then a pivot pitch on the goal line for a touchdown. The snap count was a whopping 54 for Marks, 10 for Chubb. And Chubb touched it on 6 of his 10 snaps. And with this Houston offensive line in its current state, we don't want to be super aggressive with Marks, but at least as a flex, you certainly want him over Nick Chubb, and I don't think Nick Chubb really needs to be rostered. For the Jags, I think you feel it's a tough pill, up 19 points in the fourth quarter, but I also think it's kind of been building, and they've sucked out in some situations where they maybe didn't deserve the win, up to and including last week's overtime win in Vegas. The positive that I take away from this film is, boy, I think Travis Etienne is back. I think he looked terrific. When he's good, I think you know he's my kind of guy. There's just such a difference between him running upright and searching for a hole and looking indecisive, and then him running crouched forward and looking like, I just want to hit somebody and I'll take punishment, I'll deal punishment. And over these past 2 games, that's what I feel like I've seen from Etienne. And clearly, that is harder to do against the Texans than against the Raiders. It's quote-unquote only 77 scrimmage yards, but it's also probably the best defense in the league. And you watch these plays, and sure, there are some hopeless carries, like on the Jags' first possession. They took a field goal off the board because of a penalty. They're in the red zone, and they try 3 straight carries to Etienne, and he just did not have any room. But then the next time down, just like bursting into the chests of defenders, a good carry to the 5, a good carry to the 2. Then actually, Jacoby Myers caught a touchdown for the Jags on a slant, but it's a false start, and Parker Washington is the one who makes a sick, brilliant toe-tapping catch in the back of the end zone. Second quarter, the Jags have a fullback in there, and they're just running old-fashioned lead plays. Third quarter, my notes are like, I love this run. Wow, that should have been 0 yards. Travis Etienne's playing very well again, and Bashul Tutin played 15 snaps, and LaQuint Allen playing 17 snaps. Other guys are going to be in there sometimes, but Etienne has successfully staved off any and all challenges. Home Chargers next week is not easy, but Etienne belongs in your lineup. The receivers, so you've obviously seen not a high volume for Trevor Lawrence because they get a short field on the interception. They get another short field when the Texans fumble the subsequent kickoff. Plus, Parker Washington had that punt return touchdown. So they built up the big lead and didn't throw that much till the end. In no way would you say this was a big day against Houston's defense. 5 sacks of Lawrence. So, I'm not going to judge Trevor Lawrence too harshly here. Better quarterbacks than him have struggled against that pass rush, but he definitely struggled. His interception at the end of the first half wasn't really his fault. It's a short pass trying to get in field goal range. It's a good throw. I mean, Stingley just undercuts the route and makes a ridiculous one-handed interception. He's a great player. But in the second half, Lawrence should have thrown multiple picks, throwing into double coverage, little pop-up screens to nobody, living dangerously and punting. And when, the Jags had all those chances to put the game away, back-to-back 3 and outs, and then they're trailing and they're trying to get in field goal range, and they do it. They get the catch. They have no timeouts left, but it's called illegal hands to the face by an offensive lineman. And then, as you've probably seen, the very last play, Lawrence fumbles directly into the hands of Sheldon Rankins, who rumbles for a defensive touchdown. Trevor Lawrence isn't terrible. He's not. He also doesn't really look like the number 1 pick from 4 years ago either. And before we leave this game, let's talk about Jakobi Meyers. I mentioned he had a touchdown taken off the board, but it was good to know that when the Jags got to the 1, they called his number. Meyers winds up with 3 catches, 1 a nice gain down the sideline, kind of a blown coverage, another a sticks route where it's great coverage and a great catch, 3 for 41, and Meyers only ran 23 routes compared to 47 for Parker Washington and 38 for Tim Patrick, who I honestly forgot played until I looked at the score sheet. I do have confidence that Meyers will play more going forward. I said on Monday's show that the Rams offense could have named its number against the 49ers. Well, that was certainly true of the Lions in Washington for a revenge game against the Commanders, in which they never once punted the entire day, I don't believe. A game in which sharp-eyed Jonathan Vilma, who's really good doing these games, he noticed that Dan Campbell had a play sheet and appeared to be calling games, which is a change-up after the Lions offense disappointed at home last week against the Vikings. And, it's probably unfair to blame new offensive coordinator John Morton for everything that went wrong in that game. I also don't think Dan Campbell's going to be relinquishing play calling after this one when they explode. Post Jahmyr Gibbs' struggle game, they came out with 6 touches to Gibbs on the first drive, including his first touchdown on an arrow route out of the backfield, tormenting a linebacker. And my notes on watching this from that point on are like, well, that drive was easy. That drive was easy too. The only minor complaint I'll lodge is Gibbs' second touchdown. It's a good run, but he was carried the last 5 yards by teammates. And if you're gonna think about outlawing the tush push, which you should, but you should also outlaw that play as well. That is nonsense, but whatever. It counted, and it made the score 22-3. Basically, the entire second half was garbage time. One extra reason I'm willing to believe that it was Dan Campbell calling the plays is that after the first half, with a surprising and annoying amount of Khalif Raymond getting the ball, boy, they came out in the third quarter and finally kept their word on Jameson Williams. And J-Mo showed that he's not some MVS limited to deep balls only kind of player. An actual focus on Jameson Williams does reveal him to be a good player against man coverage. He roasted a dude at the line to run an actual shallow cross that led to a big gain. He had a deep stop route for 22 yards and then a catch into the red zone and then an actual target from the 15-yard line on another crosser for his touchdown, adding to the feeling that if Jameson Williams played for a different team, we would probably look at him like we look at Jalen Waddle. Like, Jalen Waddle's a good deep ball player, but he can do other stuff too. On this team, obviously hard to trust the varied usage that he got in what was, let's face it, an exhibition game in the second half. He's obviously the only borderline case on the Detroit offense, and until we get more games like this, I can't go telling you he's a must start, but everyone else is, and you can get away with it with Jameson Williams, as you did for this week, for sure. For the Commanders, no Jaden Daniels, no Terry McLaurin. Probably not going to look pretty, and it did not. I don't think you'd even say that Marcus Mariota was tormented by the pass rush. You just say he couldn't move the offense. The Lions spied him and took away his running, and he's just not all that good a passer. The field goal early happened because of a good Commanders kickoff return, giving them field position. They did get down into the red zone in the second quarter thanks to a deep shot to the post to rookie Jalen Lane, who I think I've said on like 5 different occasions during the film review this year I kind of like. But of course, we're not using ancillary Commanders receivers. 2 times when Washington got in close, they threw that pop pass jet motion thing to Coconut DeBoney, and he was stuffed on both of them, though the second, well into Basura time, the Commanders went on 4th down after that, and the Lions forgot to cover Debo, and he did score a touchdown, but a highly uninspiring 4 for 29, and 2 of those 4 catches by Debo Samuel were 0-yard passes in the backfield. So you got some stats padding in the fourth quarter from Zach Ertz and Jerry McNichols had a couple of okay carries. There was a meaningless play-action touchdown to Ben Sinnott. I can tell you what I saw from the Commanders' backfield. I don't think you're going to feel good about using any of them, but the fact of the matter is Chris Rodriguez was the starter. You remember last week on national TV, as they're getting boat raced by the Seahawks, the only injection of energy into that backfield was Chris Rodriguez, and obviously the Commanders decide to reward him for that. He got the first 2 carries, and in the first half, while the game was still kind of close, the offensive snap count went 17 Rodriguez, 6 McNichols, and 4 Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. Rodriguez was called on from the 1-yard line the first time Debo got stuffed at the 1 and scored an easy touchdown. Rodriguez also apparently hurt his shoulder, I think covering a punt late third quarter. So the people who were just looking at snap counts are going to say, hey, don't worry, JCM 22 overall snaps, he led the backfield. Well, yeah, he did, because when they were on a garbage drive with 4 minutes left in the game, JCM was out there, which isn't what you're looking for from a fantasy flex, which means you should really not be treating him as your fantasy flex if you can avoid it at all. The Commanders get the Dolphins in Spain on Sunday. We'll have to see what they say about Rodriguez's shoulder, but while someone in Washington's backfield could produce in this Dolphins game, I don't currently have the means to tell you who, and I think you'd probably be wise not to chase. We are sponsored again by Pick 6 from DraftKings. We did not hit our Pick 6 from the Monday night game, but it was fun to try. And when sports are on TV and you don't have any natural rooting interest, I really enjoy putting $5 down and rooting. That's plenty enough for me to get invested. And with Pick 6, all you're doing is picking more or less on 2 or more player stats. Tonight, no NFL, obviously. They've got some NBA players they're offering a deal on. Take Tyrese Maxey over 25.5 points. That's a layup. Get it? That's a layup. Put that together with Jokic over 27.5. That's $5 to win $15. Plus, if you download that Pick 6 app, sign up using the code Harris, make one $5 pick set, you'll get $50 in Pick 6 credits instantly. So get that Pick 6 app, sign up using the code Harris.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 bonus picks that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
Smash that like button.
Never a bad policy. You can write us a nice review on iTunes. That helps. Anyway, we got 2 games left from Sunday. Let's talk about them. We've got Browns, Jets. First home win for the Jets. You might look at this scoreline and say, wow, 27 points against that Cleveland defense. Pretty good. Way to go, Justin Fields. And you are free, absolutely, to offer Justin Fields some nice words. I'm sure he appreciates them. But the Jets had, in the first quarter, a kickoff return for a 99-yard touchdown by former super deep sleeper who always stayed totally asleep, Kene Wangu. That tied the game at 7. And then immediately the Browns punted, and Isaiah Williams had a 74-yard punt return touchdown. So yes, this was 17-14 Jets at the half, but the offense had scored 3 points and had 5 passing yards at halftime. Mostly, the excellent Browns defense was blowing up any play the Jets tried to run. Plus, Fields had a terrible interception in his own territory, play action where he just misreads the coverage, thinks the only throw he really likes to make. The deep dig is open, but there's a safety standing right in his receiver's path. The first moment I noticed Garrett Wilson came in the third quarter on a deep target, which was not all that close, and Wilson, for some reason, skidded to a halt on the turf with both knees, like a hockey goalie getting out there to cut off the angle on a shot, and apparently he re-injured his knee, and he never played another snap in what was a close game the rest of the way, and the Jets play the Patriots on Thursday, and Wilson has already been ruled out. He'll be out for 2 to 3 more weeks. Each of these two offenses through 3 quarters had 7 plays for negative yards. Is that good? Not so good. And New York's offense only started to cook in a very minor way because to end the third quarter, they called 5 straight Breece Hall runs. And then to start the fourth quarter, Fields knew it was a 0 blitz, and to his credit, took a massive hit to get rid of the ball on a screen to Hall, who then went 42 yards in the pouring rain to give the Jets a lead that they would not relinquish. Hall would have one more good run for 30 yards later in the fourth quarter, but mostly he was destined to thrash his body against the rocks, an experience he will probably relive in New England in 2 days, though obviously he's always in your starting lineup. He's a hell of a player. In the end, Fields goes 6 for 11 with 3 sacks, and of his 54 yards, 42 of them came on that screen. The Browns' defense is awesome. I'm not sure it's that awesome. The real surprise in this game was probably that the Jets' defense actually held up pretty well. Not that you'd say the Cleveland offense is a wagon, but the Jets did just trade away their 2 best defensive players, and they actually got quite a lot of heat on what's supposed to be a good pair of Browns offensive tackles. Dylan Gabriel under center, again, not good, but not the worst. Do I think he's a long-term NFL starter? I definitely don't, but considering the pressure he got, he acquitted himself mostly pretty well here, with good mobility in the pocket, good mobility in general. Losing by 10 in the fourth quarter, having been sacked 6 times, you can tell the Jets' defensive ends had a taste for blood and they were rushing up the outside to get more sacks. Twice in a row, Gabriel avoided the rush and went up the middle for long carries of something like 20 rushing yards. And kind of shockingly, Gabriel made Jerry Jeudy look vaguely like a professional for some of this game. The second drive, Jeudy had 2 catches, got another target, naturally fell down before he could catch that one. But that led to a 95-yard drive where Quinshon Judkins got stuffed at the line and David Njoku scored a touchdown instead. Cedric Tillman returned for this game. It's 2 catches for 11 yards, and you should not really even consider rostering him outside a Dynasty League, let alone start him. But the box score won't show Tillman almost making an insane one-handed catch on a bomb. It was really close. Definitely did not catch it, but what an effort, and he was interfered with on the play, so it was a big Browns gain either way. Tillman also had a first-half hospital ball crosser that he held on to, and he kind of was the one who delivered the blow to the Jets defender and knocked that guy out. Harold Fannin, cover your ears, Paywall Andy, 4 for 44, but you do keep getting glimpses of a real player. Fannin's big play came with a minute left in the first half, a great over-the-shoulder grab on a deep out for 24 yards. That was very cool, but yeah. Anyway, sure. Jerry Jeudy had 12 targets, 6 catches. They only gave him 1 drop. There was very clearly a second drop in there as well. But first play after Fields' ugly interception deep in Jets territory, Gabriel took a deep shot to the end zone to Jeudy, and the man made a nice adjustment on the ball and pulled it in for his first touchdown of the season. His negative plays will always be there. I guess do it again in Week 11 against the Ravens and maybe we get interested. I had one league where I had to use him in an emergency and was very thankful, but obviously we don't think he's a very good football player. And lastly, let me just mention about the Browns, just not a buttoned-up team. Late first quarter, a 4th and 2 around midfield they're planning on going for, and they false start. A 4th and 1 at the Jets' 40 in the second half. They're in shotgun for some reason, and Gabriel gets overrun and sacked. Worst of all, I doubt you saw how this game ended, but the Browns are chasing 7. The Jets are leaking oil on offense. It's a 3rd and 16 for the Jets. The Browns are about to get the ball back with plenty of time to go tie it, and the play is a Fields scramble for no yards. But the Browns commit defensive holding in the secondary on a play where Fields is not even looking to throw. The Browns still have their timeouts, so they They last through another series. There's still time on the clock. They burn them all. It's 4th and 4. The Jets are obviously not going to go for it because they're not the Eagles. They're just trying to draw you off sides, and they're going to punt, and the Browns jump off sides. Not great, Bob. And have we got ourselves a stink bomb here at the end? Cardinals Seahawks. This is a rare occasion where I actually watch a game live on Sunday, and I watched the whole thing live on Sunday, but it's so bad that I postpone it to the Tuesday show anyway. My main question coming out of this one is, how are you going to blame Kyler Murray for this loss, Cardinals? I mean, I assume they will. I'm just wondering. 2 fumble sixes out of Jacoby Brissett on Arizona's first 3 drives, which made it 28-0 Seattle 2 plays into the second quarter, which unfortunately means that literally everything that happened thereafter is basically useless, highly suspect. I mean, I'll talk about it. I watched it, but I certainly hope you don't have people out there telling you, wow, well, Jacoby Brissett really came through. Wonderful job. Look at those numbers. He's so much better than Kyler. And I think you can back me up here. I have a pretty unblemished record of not being into Kyler Murray. When all the people out there were ranking Murray as a top 5 fantasy quarterback, I was putting him on the bust list, and Cousin Josh was putting him on the frag list. This has never been our guy. And it's honestly fine with me if Arizona doesn't want him anymore. He'll probably go somewhere and be okay, and then these same jabbering morons will be like, see that? You shouldn't give up on a quarterback. It's even fair to say, sure, Jacoby Brissett should have taken over full time, but that's because Kyler Murray played bad, not because Brissett is good. Like, we've got people out there saying, this is amazing because Kyler Murray refused to throw it to Marvin Harrison. I will say again, I have been through Jacoby Brissett as my team's starting quarterback 2 separate times, and it's not great. So yeah, 258 yards and 2 touchdowns. Got Marv Jr. a touchdown at the very end when it meant absolutely nothing, and in fact was just moments away from giving Marv Jr. an 11-target, 2-catch day. So can we please not? They were losing 35-0. Seattle took their foot off the gas because obviously they did. This is a really hard defense to face, no question, but my message to you is you can assume this is closer to the Jacoby Brissett Cardinals that you're going to get compared to the Cowboys last week. Anyway, for the backfield, it was always a bad matchup, and then throw in the whole we're losing by 35 points thing, and there wasn't much running. Bam Knight started, but Imari DiMercato played plenty in the first half as well. The yardage difference between them comes down to Knight got hurt midway through the third quarter. It was an ankle. He didn't come back in. Of course, I have no idea whether he could have because I say again, this game was over at the end of the first quarter. But then, yeah, DiMercato had a fourth quarter carry for 55 yards. You can feel free to chase that on your own time. We did get Michael Carter subbing in for the injured Knight at the end. Arizona hosts the banged-up 49ers next week. And if Trey Benson still isn't activated off IR, which I have no idea one way or the other, nor does anybody else outside that organization, of course, we will rank whichever Cardinals rushers are healthy, but other than Benson, you should not be aggressively pursuing any of the others. As for the Seahawks, don't you love 10 completions in an entire game for Sam Darnold? And with those 10 completions, he still did 178 passing yards, a bomb touchdown to Jackson Smith-Njigba on the first drive. Second drive, the Roll Juror Part 2 got an end around for 10 yards, and then another deep ball to JSN, which is incomplete, but he takes an illegal shot to the helmet, which is called. And in the red zone, they make JSN come off the field a few plays after it happened because they had to check for a concussion. He would wind up being fine, and instead of the running back that you were using, you got a George Holani bounce outside for a touchdown that made it 21-0. In the second quarter, up 28-0, Darnold survives the rush, flings a sideline check down to forgotten man Cooper Kupp, who, for the moment, you should continue to forget, but nobody tackles him. He races up the right sideline for a big gain, landing inside the 5. Then JSN gets an end zone target, because of course he does. He draws interference. And then from the 1, it's Zach Charbonnet. But they false start, and it doesn't matter because then Charbonnet just scores from the 6. Rashid Shaheed just didn't have to do that much. They wanted to hand him the ball a few times. He's getting his feet wet. He's going to be in the sadness for the time being, but I still would roster him over Cooper Kupp. The way I'll continue to say it about the Seattle running backs is, yep, Kenneth Walker started. The first play was a throw to him. He got tackled. They immediately took him out and put in Zach Charbonnet. No, we're not going to draw any conclusions about what happened once it was a blowout, but I'm using my eyeballs. There just isn't a lot of deference paid to Walker, which is why I really do think the people who are continuing to rank them every week with a big distance between them are just generally incorrect. Of course, in any given week, variance can happen, but these guys are used almost interchangeably. You know, you got a Sam Darnold fumble because the backup center was in there. You got an interception from his own end zone up 38-7 in the third quarter when he thumped a pass off of a lineman's helmet. But mostly, it's just a blowout. It was boring. The Seahawks are really good, though, and next week they have one hell of a fun game against the Rams. We are sponsored by ExpressVPN. I go to the coffee shop a bunch to write. I use their Wi-Fi, but going on a public network without ExpressVPN, it's like driving without a seatbelt. Don't do it. Every time we connect to an unencrypted network, our data is not secure. Our passwords, our bank logins, our credit cards, they're all not that hard to get on a public network if you know what you're doing. That's why my first click at the coffee shop or the airport or anywhere else that's public, I just push the ExpressVPN button and it's taken care of. And that's true for laptops, phones, and tablets. And I'll tell you a story from our poker game on Friday. Someone was talking about downloading a movie, and someone else said, "Oh, I tried that, but my ISP sent me a nasty email." And we were like, "Oh yeah, that's why you use ExpressVPN." I use ExpressVPN just about every day. I really do. And I can get you up to 4 extra months. Secure your online data today by visiting expressvpn.com/Harris, expressvpn.com/Harris to find out how you can get up to 4 extra months. expressvpn.com/Harris.
Today's guest.
Funston, looking down on you, looking down on me like we asked for. Brandon Funston, talking Christmas treats, jingle jangle is sweet. We would all like to eat. Love it.
And his walk-up song gets ever more appropriate as the holidays approach. It is my old pal, emphasis on the old, Brandon Funston. You can, don't find him anywhere. You can find him at The Athletic, where he's running the whole thing behind the scenes. If you go to Athletic Fantasy, which a lot of you should, because it's great. A lot of our friends right there. But he didn't even react when I called him old. It's Brandon Funston.
How's it going? Happy to be back at the most thankless guest spot in the industry.
Only for you. You're the only one I tease the most. The person who gave me my first job, the person who's responsible for me having the Yacht Possum empire is Brandon Funston, and
You have a good memory. That was a long time ago.
And it should just be said that we're not that different in age. So shut up, Harris. Basically, if you're, I'll do it for you. So we're at the point in the waiver season where we're not, we're barring a huge injury. We don't have a lot of surprises anymore about situations. We don't have a lot of, completely overturned apple carts, at least not in the positive. Sure, like Jaden Daniels gets hurt and the Commanders, as I just discussed earlier in the show, get disastrous to use. But rarely it's like, hey, this team that you didn't, hey, these Titans are suddenly a wagon and you should be adding all the, like that happens in September. It doesn't really happen in November. So philosophically, when it comes to the waiver wire, this is a 20,000-foot question. What are you trying to accomplish?
I honestly, if it's just for my roster, I'm looking, if I have a successful roster up to this point, I look like I'm going into the fantasy playoffs, and you're sort of circling the wagons. You're backing up your highest assets, your best assets. You're looking for, potential pitfalls and how you can basically spackle over them if that were to happen. So yeah, I think it's different if you're obviously struggling to make the playoffs and you're still playing week to week. You're looking for streaming options, plug and plays, things like that. But ideally, you're in a position where you're like, okay, I can find some next man up insurance here, and maybe carry a second quarterback now, and some different things like that. So Yeah, I think that's the way I would play it in a perfect world if you're heading to the playoffs. And man, it's been a rough year for me, man. I'm gonna have a few less playoff teams this year than I normally am accustomed to.
I think you said it very well. That's probably all very true. Like, sure, there's some teams where we're still like, okay, I don't want to use this guy anymore, and yeah, I'm 500 and I'm out of the playoffs, but I got to try to win. So sure, I'm going to try to add another plug and play. But the point being that there aren't that many plug and plays, and that probably on this list every week that we do on the show, we are trying to give you plug and plays. We're, here and there, we're like, you got to handcuff this guy. That's going to come up in this particular episode for sure. But you're right. That's super well said. I don't want to be looking at schedules yet. I don't want to be looking at 15, 16, 17 week schedules that are a month and 6 weeks away. It's just don't play that game. However, when the bye weeks start to end, which they are, we're running out of bye weeks, great idea. Store a second quarterback just in case. Get a good one. Get someone you feel like, don't worry about the matchup, just someone you would feel okay about using. Get your handcuff. Get the backup wide receiver because your guy who's performing has been injury prone in the past. Like, that's your mission more than what we're going to do here, which is a lot of like, I don't know, I guess you could try Tez Johnson. That's what we're going to do on this list. No question. And that's fine too, because that's a different audience, but I just wanted to have that conversation up front. I think you said it really, really well.
Quit stepping on my list. Jeez.
I know, mine too. I just stepped on my own list. So before we get to the main list, let me mention a couple of running backs who are like definitely not eligible for our main list, but if you're in a 10-team league, let's say you're in a 10-team league and you have these two running backs are on the waiver wire in the 60% owned range. Trey Benson, the mystery when he will come back ever. And then Woody Marks, who I just talked about, seemed like he took over. Nick Chubb only 10 snaps last week, but it's still a very bad Houston offensive line. A 10-team league, you're with a pretty good team. Do you race to chomp at either one of those guys, or do you go, it depends on what you have, obviously, but you don't feel like, nah, in a 10-team league, I probably have better options?
Yeah, I think I'm going to go Trey Benson. I mean, I think if I'm already successful, I'm going to go, I think, for the highest ceiling. Watching this Houston offense all season long, it's just hard for me not to just make the Mr. Yuck sticker face every time I think about him. But, and then you look at Arizona, they're like, Amari DiMercado's been, had some nice flashes, but they've been juggling things around. They're just waiting for Trey Benson to get back, who looked pretty good before he got injured. I just feel like, he comes back. I like the offense a little better. And I think
that's enough. You don't need any more reasons. That's cool. Yeah, I think that's a fine statement. I kind of tend to agree with it. I don't think pursuing those Texans running backs is a profitable enterprise in a 12-team league, in a 14-team league. You don't have a choice sometimes, but in a 10-team league, you should be able to do better. All right, our main lists are coming up here. Of course, as always, if you're going to add somebody, you're going to drop somebody. So what do we do, Brandon?
Are you going to give him the Thursday boot?
You are just such a good friend. You're just shilling. You're shilling out here for me. The Thursday Boot, because this segment is sponsored by Thursday Boot, ThursdayBoots.com. I don't have a promo code for you because these boots are made for moving. These boots are great. I have boots that I got in 2015 when they became a sponsor of this show, and they've held up great. If you're looking for a new pair of boots, we love Thursday Boots. They've been with us that long, 10 years on this show. ThursdayBoots.com. It is kind of an abbreviated kind of WTF list, so you don't have to go on and on about each name and really sell me on why they're good calls, because we know the deal with most of them. But so we'll go quickly through this list. Who's your number 5?
Yeah, I always make my 5, and honestly, like, it's such an arbitrary which order they go in. But I'm just so I'm gonna go ahead and throw Christian Watson out as my number 5. And it's kind of the plug and play that we're talking about. I mean, you see Romeo Doubs got the chest injury. Tucker Kraft's out now. Matthew Golden has a shoulder injury. So you got Christian Watson, who's had a 25-yard catch in 3 straight games and is facing the Giants. I wouldn't feel terrible if I had to plug him into a flex spot. I think there's some ceiling there that you can chase. Also, with Christian Watson, that there's a absolute dropout floor. That
Did you see the ball hit him in the helmet last night?
Yeah. I'm not saying I like him as I like him as a receiver. I'm just saying I like him for the opportunity that might present itself in Week 11. Yeah.
I didn't put Watson on the list because I've put him on the list 3 straight weeks. So he's now up to 32%. I put him on honorable mention. The truth is he probably would be on my list if I hadn't kept putting him on there. He's not a great player, but he does have an opportunity and he has moments. Honestly, if that catch from last night counts, if it's not some weird illegal formation, we're whining a lot less about him. So I think it's a fine call. I 100% agree with you. My 5, I'll put Sean Tucker on the list. I don't want to use Sean Tucker. I'm not going to talk too much about Sean. Did he make your list?
He was honestly, I have him written off to the side as my number 6. So he did not make my list. I almost changed my mind this morning, and I kind of did the thing that you just said out loud, which is I don't want to put Sean Tucker in my top.
No, obviously. Yeah. Like we're told now it's not an exotic foot injury for Bucky Irving anymore. Now it's an exotic shoulder injury, but he doesn't seem like he's anywhere near playing, and they go play Buffalo this week, and you think everybody's coming to the realization Rachaad White kind of stinks. It was a bad matchup, the hard matchup, and Sean Tucker, didn't do anything that Rachaad White couldn't have done. They were just like, it was a draw play against a blitz that Sean Tucker happened to be the back that was in there, and the Patriots defense all ran one way and he ran the other. Like, wow, your stat line looks great. But I'll just say, if you're desperate, Sean Tucker. Who's your number 4?
I'm going to go with Blake Corum. And
he's my 3.
Okay. And look, I like the 3 straight games of 12 carries, 12 or more carries. What I don't like, they don't use him at all at the goal line. They don't use him at all.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but he got a goal line carry in this 49er game.
Okay, so for the year he has 2 goal line carries. He has one of them touchdown like in week 1. So 1 in week 1 and 1 in week 10. So there you go. Yeah. But yeah, they typically use Kyren Williams. They don't use him at all in the passing game. I will say though, every time I watch the Rams, I'm like, was that Kyren Williams?
One is it?
Yeah, yep. They're so hard to tell apart. So maybe this usage continues. And he's also the insurance thing here. So next man up.
It's honestly more the insurance thing for me. You might as well just grab him in a deeper league. It's fine if you don't have Kyren Williams, but boy, if you have Kyren Williams, you got to get yourself Blake Corum. He's my 3. My 4 is Chris Rodriguez. Let's check on his shoulder. Maybe by the end of today, we'll have a better sense since that game is in Spain, so they have to get their stuff together, and make arrangements. But I just talked about Chris Rodriguez, 6%. He was the starter, but let's not dwell too long on him. Who's your number 3?
My number 3 is Brian Robinson. Kind of similar to Blake Corum, except for the fact that they use Brian Robinson a little bit more at the goal line. It's I don't. There's not a whole lot to say other than the fact that he's starting to bubble up. That maybe they're going to lean on him a little bit more down the stretch, kind of preserve Christian McCaffrey a little bit since they use him an insane amount. So for all the things I said about Blake Corum, Brian Robinson just like his upside a little bit more than Corum.
I don't think you want to use Blake Corum or Brian Robinson in a lineup. That's the bottom line. Is it's very difficult to justify, but these are the kinds of decisions. That's why we had the good conversation beforehand. This is the kind of decision that you should be making. If you have McCaffrey and you don't have Brian Robinson, do what you can do. Trade for him, for heaven's sake.
This is a next man up kind of waiver wire week for sure.
For sure. And his touchdown was good, and they took McCaffrey. They gave him Robinson. I said this already yesterday. I don't need to go into it, but McCaffrey comes in for one play, gets him down to the 2-yard line, and comes back out again, and then it's Robinson. So it's not going to happen. McCaffrey's still the one you want, but yes, this is a good point. 3 for me was Blake Corum. I'm kind of rushing us because who cares? We don't need to sell these players.
No, I'm loving this. I'm loving this because it makes me have to try to sell them less, which is exactly where I want to be.
That's exactly right. Who's your 2?
Guy you stepped on, Tez Johnson.
Tez, me too.
Yeah. And you know what? Honestly, I picked him up kind of right after his first little bubble up. And so there's some bias in the fact that he's actually been useful for me. 4 TDs in the last 5 games. Past 5
Lucky.
weeks.
We have to admit, if you watch that Patriot Buccaneer game, it was like, it's Tez Johnson. And he scores the right. After Travion Henderson looks to the sideline to see if he's allowed to score, he scores, and then it's a long, meaningless drive because they're down 2 scores, and great, Tez Johnson scores the touchdown. But without that drive, if Travion Henderson goes down with the 1, Tez Johnson doesn't have the huge game, so it's a little lucky. But
he's fast.
He's my 2.
He looks good, catching the ball across the middle, and it's a fairly seamless flow. think he looks all right, and production is sort of the bottom line here. He has been productive, so. And there is no Chris Godwin. There's no Mike Evans. There is opportunity, kind of as we talked about with Christian Watson. So, yeah, there you go. He's my 2 as well.
Yeah, and let's be honest, he's 33% rostered. So, this is kind of by – it's by a whisker. Like, for example, Alec Pierce, I would prefer.
Yeah.
Alec Pierce, I would be adding. There are some – we're looking at Yahoo ownership, but like the NFL.com. If you play on NFL.com, I think Alec Pierce is like 11% rostered. I would prefer Alec Pierce. Take him. I would prefer Troy Franklin. In my ranks that I'm about to make later today, I'm going to rank both of those guys ahead of Tez Johnson. It's just that on Yahoo leagues, they're just a little not eligible for this list. I think Pierce actually is the ad of the week among receivers you can use for all the reasons that I've been talking about on the show. Like I think he's keep saying
42 on Yahoo, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. And then I assume is R1 both also a whisker eligibility guy.
Are you talking Tyler Allgeier, who?
Yeah, also 33% rostered.
Honestly, I was gonna be so mad if I woke up this morning and he was 34%. That's happened to me before. Like, there's some leagues that just I don't know what their early waiver. I don't know what it is, but sometimes every once in a while they'll move a percentage.
So the question I'll ask you for Allgeier is like how, like, yes, we all saw the goal line there against the Colts in where Germany. Thing I said on the show yesterday is the idea that Allgeier is like always getting the goal line touches. They in the past month, that was the only goal line, the only carry they've had inside the 3-yard line was that one to Tyler Allgeier. So the question is, in both of our minds, obviously, we both decided Allgeier is more addable than these other handcuffs. In your mind, does that get Allgeier to the point where you can start him if Bijan Robinson is healthy? That's really the $1 million question.
Yeah, is he David Montgomery? No, but
exactly.
I think you can throw him into a flex spot. He has 6 touchdowns. He's getting a third of the rushing carries. This week it's Carolina. They're giving up like 5 yards a carry. It's like not the worst matchup. They're at home. Honestly, you watch Michael Penix lately, and you can just see Raheem Morris going, okay, we need to limit his exposure in the passing game. Let's try to keep this thing conservative. Let's try to be a run heavy approach where our defense maybe can carry the day a little bit. That's just a bunch of stuff I'm throwing out there, but it makes a lot of sense for the situation with Atlanta right now. You have 2 good backs. Let's lean into those guys as much as we can and try not to have Michael Penix, who, if you're watching him lately, he's been struggling. It's been rough.
Well, you said it right. Is he David Montgomery? No. But is he going to be in the week 11 ranks? Is he going to be the second highest, second banana running back in everybody's ranks? Yes.
Yeah.
And that's what gets him. You said it right. I can't disagree. He's my one also. Again, also by a technicality, by a whisker, 33% rostered. But we lucked out. We got our 1 and 2.
Thank you, Tyler Allgeier.
I know. Both Tez Johnson and Tyler Allgeier, we lucked out with the 33%. Honorable mentions, Luke Musgrave didn't disqualify himself. That the Packers disqualified themselves. But if Musgrave catches the long pass where they commit interference on him, then we don't have a complaint about it. So you can chase him if you want to. Keaton Mitchell, it made my honorable mention. Kaleb Johnson made my honorable mention. May have made old Kenny Gainwell not a problem any longer. We'll see. Bam Knight, 25%. You don't want him either. How about a streaming quarterback for the week? And it's going to be a man who's near and dear to your heart, I bet you.
Oh, man. Marcus Mariota? I don't know about that.
Oh,
that's my streamer.
I went Geno. Yeah. I thought you'd pick Geno.
No, I just can't. I just can't. I would take the 20 to 30 yard rushing floor of Mariota. I mean, he's had 4 starts this year. The worst he's done is QB 18 in a full week. There wasn't a bunch of buys that week either. So he's been middle of the pack most of the time when it comes to fantasy numbers. He had 1 top 10 finish of his 4 starts, but I like it's Miami this week. They're like, I think they have 2 interceptions on the year. Mario look, he's been around. We know who he is.
Yeah,
he stinks. But
I'm going to take Geno against the Cowboys. Okay. I think Geno's going to have a 5-touchdown game because it's the Cowboys. He's got to be healthy. We got to prove he's healthy though. You're of course famously a Seahawks fan, which is why I say he's your old friend because you did root for him.
Well, I'm very happy that Geno's not in Seattle anymore. So
I know, really. How about a defense?
Let's stick with Atlanta.
They were my second choice. I picked the Bears.
Bunch of sacks this year. Yeah.
I picked the Bears at Minnesota at JJ McCarthy, but I did pick the Falcons for my number 2. All right. Well, this is great. I'll put all these in today's show notes. I forgot to say that at the beginning, but that's okay. I hope nobody crashed their car trying to write all these down. Brandon, you're wonderful. You're one of my great friends in this business, and I really appreciate you doing it. We would encourage people, if you want to say thanks to Brandon, go to The Athletic. Andy Behrens writes there. Jake Seeley writes there. A bunch of our friends right there. Brandon, you're awesome. Thank you so much for doing it, my friend.
Cheers. Always a pleasure.
And thank you so much for listening. Let me also thank the 3 sponsors that made today's fun show possible. We had Fitbod, the personal fitness app that I use. We had Pick6 from DraftKings, and we had ExpressVPN. And really, you should have a VPN. And ExpressVPN is great, and they've been sponsoring a really long time. So if you're in the market for a VPN, I would love it if you would check them out. You can find details about them and all 3 of today's sponsors in today's show notes. All the current sponsors are listed at harrisfootball.com. So that will do it. We are through the Week 10 film review. We're well on our way in Week 11. I'm going to go make some ranks for Week 11, which those should be up on the website at some point in the afternoon, East Coast time. Of course, Wednesday, that is the Paywall Andy show. So if you don't wind up seeing it, and you think you're subscribed to the Yacht Club, your subscription may have expired, so go ahead and make it recurring, and we will talk to you about what we're going to plan to do in the off-season. I promise we're not looking to not make shows while you're still subscribed, but we did see a dip in the numbers this week because I assume because folks are having their auto-renew not renew, or no, they're not auto-renewed. You know what I'm trying to say. So that'll be me and Andy tomorrow on the Yacht Club show, and then we'll all get back together here on the free side on Thursday. My guest will be Matt Waldman to talk about some Week 11 ranks, and then also, of course, Jake Trowbridge to celebrate his big cash in the DraftKings DFS contest last week. Until then, thanks again so much for listening. Your hat is awesome. You're awesome for wearing it. I will talk to you next time.
The Harris Football Podcast's opening theme is Under the Gun by Apex Manor. The closing theme is Say Yes by The Wellspring. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and never miss an episode.